All right, everyone. Next up, we have Becky Ryan at Monacan High School, who will be presenting about Desmos in a digital breakout setting.
And don't forget to follow the hashtag CCPSDLD to get all the latest tweets on what's happening today.
All right, Becky, it is over to you.
Okay, hi, I'm Becky Ryan. So my screen just went blank. Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Becky Ryan. So my digital breakout is about incorporating Desmos with a breakout setting. So let me share my screen with you so you can see where I'm starting with this. Okay. Okay. So if you don't know what a breakout is, basically you give the kids different problems and they use the answers to put in different codes into a Google form to help them figure out if it is right or wrong. So we'll go over how to use that and how I'm going to connect the two together. So this is just kind of an example of one that I've used in the past. And then we're going to be looking at sliders on Desmos. So on Desmos, there's actually two different sliders that you can use. The one we're going to focus on today is this one that's on the left side where you actually have a slider going back and forth. The other type of slider is where you can have one that's on the actual graph and slide. That's really good to use with domain and range. But like I said, we're going to focus on the one on the left. So first thing that you would need to do is go to Desmos. And if you just go to teacher.desmos.com, or if you just go to Desmos and click on the classroom activities, you can get to this page too. So the activity that I created that we're going to look at today is centered around equations of circles. So if you just search up there, equations of circles, you'll find it on there. It's this one that it's hard to see, but it has emojis as the picture that goes with it. So one thing that you'll have to do is create a document for yourself so you can copy and edit one for yourself. I'm just going to click on edit your activity because I created it. But if you guys are going to use this for yourself, make sure you just copy it. So like I said, this activity is going to circle around circles and specifically looking at the H, the K, and the R values. So one thing about Desmos is the kids can't log in themselves. They can see an activity, but you won't be able to get the answers. So incorporating it into a Google Form breakout is helpful because then you can actually get their answers. So these first three slides here for the Desmos focus more on having them discover how the H and the K and the R relate to the equations. So they can use the slider here to move back and forth on the slider itself to notice that then the H value affects going left and right. So I then created a Google Form doc where you could have them input that information. You don't necessarily have to do that if you don't want to. You can have it more of just a verbal discussion with the kids. But if you want to make sure they're paying attention, that's always good to add at the beginning of the Google Form for them. So like I said, you can do the H, the K, and the R, and they can notice the different things here. One thing to point out about the sliders, if you notice this R value here, I have it only going up by halves. So what you can do to change the values on the slider, if you click the slider equation itself, then you can actually change the intervals that you can go at. So here I have this one set at 0 to 10 for the radius. And then I have it going up in steps of a half. So you can change that and have it going up by steps of 1 or have it going up by 2s or something like that. But it really helps the kids, especially with some of the equations that we're going to look at in a second. So one of the ways that you can use this to incorporate with Desmos is have them kind of try and overlay two equations with each other. So to do that, I have one circle that's going to already be set for the kids. So that would be this black circle here. And I'm going to go over how to input all of this and how to make a folder for this. I just want to explain what we're doing here first. And what you can do is you can then have the kids use the sliders to try and then move the H, the K, and the R values so that they overlay on the same circle. So you would have them move these so that they go on top of each other. And then what you would do is have them take those values and input them into the Google form as a breakout question. So I want to go through, I have a few examples here kind of showing you what to do. I want to go through one with you to show you how to set it up. So the first thing you would need to do for the slider is some type of direction. So I'm just going to copy these directions that I already had there. So if you just at the bottom left hand of your screen click this teal plus sign, it'll add a new page for you. And all of these that we're doing are about a graph. So I'm going to do the graph one, and then this black plus over here, if you hover over it, it says add item. You can click on that and you can add different things. So for directions, you want to click on add a note, and you can type in whatever directions you want, or even if you just want to type in a specific note to the kids, that's going to go on first. And then we don't want the kids to see the equation of the circle that we're trying to create. So what we can do is add a folder. So you're going to click on the same add item, and you're going to click on add a folder. So what you can do is you can hide the folder from the kids. So if you click on that, then when the kids go into it, they can't see whatever you place underneath this folder. So what I'm going to do is just then underneath it, I'm going to type in an equation for a circle. So I'm just going to do, for example, x, say +1, and then do y -2, whatever numbers suit your fancy, equals 16. I like keeping the radiuses as perfect square numbers because I think that's easier for the kids when you're dealing with a Desmos type activity to move them around. So one thing, if you notice when if I click out of this set right here, this equation isn't underneath the folder. You need to make sure, and you'll see the difference when I pull it up. Now both of them have this line going through from the arrow. So that means that this equation is like nested in that folder, so the kids won't be able to see it. So another way is if you click on the arrow and both of those parts go away. So that means it's nested in the folder. So you need to make sure if you're using the folder that you're actually hiding the equation. So then to make the actual sliders, you want to put your equation for the circle in using your H, your K, and your R. And as you will type that in on Desmos, anything that has like a value, you'll have the slider come up. So you can say add slider. Normally when I do it, I go through and type the whole equation, and it'll ask you to add the sliders for all of them all at the same time, which I think is just easier. But it's really friendly with adding the sliders in. So like here for the K and the R, I can add all at the same time. So then I have all of the sliders on there to move my circle. Now, like I said, one of the things is that right now it's going by really small numbers to move your circle. So what you can do is if you click on the equation itself here, like if I click on the K equals 2, then I can change where the K is allowed to move. So I'm going to keep it as just being all types of numbers, but I'm going to change the step value to be 1. So that means then that when the kids go and try and move the circle, it's only going to move increments of 1, which is really helpful for them. So you can do that for all of them. So that way it moves it for just all of them. And then again, for R, I want to just keep R as being positive values there. Because if you try and move it into the negatives, then it still ends up working, but you want it to stay as a positive value. So I'm just going to move that so that way the kids can't change it. And you can set it at any value. I'm going to go up to 15. And then I'm going to move the H to be the same steps. So then the kids then could just use these sliders then to figure out if it's going to go on top of the circle that you gave them. So for example, here it would be H is 2, R is 4. That was in the wrong order. So what you can do if they're in the wrong order is click on them and you can rearrange them so in the right order. So now I have H is -1, K is 2, and R is 4. So what you can have them do then to make sure that they're all getting it right is on the Google Breakout, have them input those into a question. So I already did it for the previous examples that I already created, but I can show you how to create a whole new one. So for the breakout with the sliders here, the main thing is you want it to be a short answer when you create it. And for the breakout, you can do any type of value for a breakout. So you can do a number, you can do text, you can do regular regression. Here is what we end up using to make sure that we can put everything in. So in order to create a breakout, here this was example 4, and it was on slide 8. So just to make sure they're all at the same pace. And then to make the breakout, I'm going to make sure this question is required. And then the 3 dots next to the required, I'm going to click on response validation. So that's what makes it the breakout, that they have to get the correct value. So these, since the numbers have negatives like in the middle, it has to be a regular regression. You want to make sure it says matches. And then the values that we created here were -1, 2, and 4. So that's what I'm going to type in here, -1, 2, 4. So then the kids for the answer have to type in -1, 2, 4 in order for it to be correct. Now you can write some text here, try again, nice try, whatever you want to do there if it is incorrect. Then on the activity, I went a little farther. You can always browse through that. I added some on the Desmos activity with emojis. That makes it fun for the kids. They have to find the equation of the circle that would be like the circumference of the emoji. That's fun for them to do. So this really shows just a different way that you can do equations of circles instead of just giving them blankly the equation. They can kind of discover it themselves. And like I said, it's really a fun activity for the kids because they're able to use the sliders to move them around to discover kind of what's going on instead of just telling them, you know, what your H, your K, and your R do. And then since you use the breakout, it's a good way to assess if they know their skills. So thank you so much for joining me on this breakout.
All right, thank you so much. I know geometry, I have to admit, was not my favorite subject in high school, but if I think I would have had you as a teacher doing these activities, I think it would have been like 1,000 times better. But so thank you so much for sharing that. There was lots of great engaging ways of teaching what can be a very complex concept. So thanks again. All right, coming up next, if you want to learn more about Desmos, Nolan Doyle from Clover Hill High School has sent us a pre-recorded session on Desmos, so keep tuned into our YouTube channel, watch for that posting, and also stay tuned to the hashtag on Twitter, the CCPS DLD.